Get ready, Novas Nation. The countdown is on. The Supernovas return to the court this January with team captain Brooke Nunaviller and returning Huskers Merritt Beeson and GM John Cook. This season promises to be bigger, louder, and more electrifying than ever with world-class professional volleyball lighting up Omaha. Season tickets keep you at the center of every moment with the best fans in pro volleyball. Secure your seats today at supernovas.com.
Hello and welcome to Volleyball State, a look at the sport of volleyball in 6 rotations and a proud part of the I-80 Club, brought to you tonight by our friends at Alumni Hall. My name is Jeff Sheldon.
And I'm Lincoln Arneal.
We both made it home. We both made it back from one of the most amazing, heart-stopping, and if you're a Nebraska fan, heartbreaking losses in Husker volleyball history. And we are going to spend plenty of time talking about that tonight, spend plenty of time talking about it with you, listening to you, reading your comments. We are doing the full live show free for everyone tonight. And we're going to spend most of our time talking about this amazing regional final we just watched, Texas A&M's 5-set win at John Cook Arena that snapped Nebraska's 63-match home winning streak. Plus, take a look at the rest of the regions and the Final Four as well. But we're going to start, of course, in Lincoln. Lincoln Arneal, have your ears stopped ringing? Because that was one of the loudest, kind of most sustained intensity matches you and I probably have ever been at outside of a Final Four setting.
Yeah, my heart rate has finally come down back to normal. I think the crowd stood up late in the fourth set and never sat down the rest of the match as well too. It was a thrilling match, and what a great platform to have that on ABC and broadcast to the entire country on network television too. So here's what we got coming up on the show. There's not going to be a lot of quick side outs in this one. I think early on too. We're going to spend a lot of time rotation one talking about Nebraska versus Texas A&M. It's going to be a long rotation, longer. I don't know if it's going to be as long as Fennecasso-Kala's run in the first set.
Ouch.
Sorry, too soon. But then we'll move on to rotation 2 and kind of take a step back and think about how we're going to remember the season 2. This is not our last podcast of the of the year, but we will. I just kind of want to take a little bit high level view of what Nebraska's season was look like. So it's not just all caught up in the moment of the down and sadness that is that. Then we're going to take a trip around the country too. Rotation 3, we'll talk about the Pitt region. Then we'll go rotation 4, the Kentucky region. Rotation 5 is the Texas region, which I got on my TV right there. Wisconsin has set point as we're watching live. 24-22. We'll see if Wisconsin can pull out that first set. I was hoping to have that update by the time we got to this, but nope. And then rotation 6, we're going to take a quick glance at the Final Four. We'll see if we know who the fourth participant is, but this may be already outdated by the time you hear it. So we'll take a look and give you the best we can.
We are doing our show at our regular time on Sunday nights at 7 o'clock. I've had a couple of people ask us, well, why didn't you wait and go a little bit later until you see the end of Wisconsin-Texas match? We have plenty to talk about, I think, with the Nebraska match, and a lot of our regular listeners who join us live on Sunday nights want to get to that. Also, full transparency, we kind of record at this time because it works the best for my family. I'm able to help out with bedtime with my kids, which comes up in a little bit too. So I want to make sure I'm not dropping the ball on the home front as well. So we're going to get into Nebraska and Texas A&M. Thank you so much for those folks who are joining us tonight that are our I-80 Club members. You too can become an I-80 Club member and join us live every time we do Volleyball State, and put your comments and questions in the I-80 Club Discord. That is only $5 a month, right? You go to patreon.com/I-80 Club, just $5 a month. You can become a Volleyball State subscriber and get bonus content like our weekly newsletter, bonus pods that we're going to be doing in the college off season, and interact with us in the I-80 Club Discord, man. Like that place was contained multitudes as I was keeping an eye on it during the match. There were people living and dying and posting pictures of their kids, and like it just goes to show you how much passion this sport and maybe this Nebraska program evokes for its fans to kind of see the fingernails being chewed all the way down to the cuticle during this match. We also want to say a big thank you to our friends at Alumni Hall who are sponsoring tonight's show and all of our shows this fall. They're the ultimate Husker shopping destination. They've got 2 locations in Lincoln downtown at 11th and P, and at 27th and Pine Lake Road at South Point Pavilions. They do have more volleyball merchandise than any competing retailer. Just 12 shopping days before Christmas, 11 shopping days, maybe 10 if you want to get it all wrapped up by Christmas Eve. We're going to save you 15% on all of your purchases at Alumni Hall. If you use the promo code Volleyball State when you're shopping online at alumnihall.com, that saves you 15%. And also, if you walk in the store, ask for the Volleyball State discount. We love to treat our listeners to a little bit of savings at Volleyball State. Thank you so much for supporting the show this fall. So
live update. Wisconsin has claimed the first set over Texas. It was 25-22. Mimi Collier already has 6 kills. So there's our update. Let's get into rotation 1 though.
Yeah, and there are like 100 places I feel like we could start when talking about this match, but let's give a high level real quick. Texas A&M, this is their first trip to the Final Four. They become the first new participant in the Final Four, I believe, since Louisville did it. Louisville did it last year, right?
Louisville made it in 22 as well too.
Okay, so Louisville and Pitt were our other first-time attendees recently. Texas A&M going to the Final Four for the first time. The scores in this one, incredible. Every set was close. 25-22, 25-22. A&M takes the first 2 sets. Nebraska gets games 3 and 4, 25-20, 37-35. And then A&M closes it out in the 5th, 15-13. How close was this match, Lincoln? If you do the math on all the numbers I just gave you, A&M scored 1 more point over the course of the match.
Yeah, it's back and forth too. And we could do a whole hour just on that 4th set alone, but it was a back and forth match. And really, Nebraska could have folded up after dropping those first 2 sets. A&M could have folded after dropping that emotional, high energy 4th set too. And they both teams fought to the very end, which is a good place to finish. But it was both teams, I think, left everything they had on the court. They're just exhausted. I think Texas A&M was right in that euphoria. They're probably going to come down from that adrenaline high here soon and just crash a little bit. So So I think it's great. So Jeff, when you mentioned that 1 point difference too, what was the deciding factor? If you can point to, we'll start with one thing and then we'll go from there. Yeah. What was the biggest factor that allowed A&M to come out on top?
Well, of all of the things, I think Texas A&M's, it comes down to Texas A&M's pin hitters were better than Nebraska's. Yeah. And a lot of times in volleyball, it's that simple. I remember, I've told this story on the show before, interviewing Jared Elliott years ago when I asked him about kind of the disparity in sets to his pins. His pins got all the sets and Nebraska, or his middles really didn't get that many. And he's like, listen, man, volleyball is a high aggregate sport. You get a big sample size every match. And usually the teams of the better pin hitters are going to come out and win. And, we have tried, I think, to point out a couple times this year where pin hitting offense was one of the chinks in Nebraska's armor. You couldn't harp on it too much because they were 33-0 coming into this match, but you're like, if you squint, you can see how a team who can outplay Nebraska on the pins and bring service pressure like Texas A&M was able to do can make them sweat. And A&M did that and combined it with a middle blocking physicality that Nebraska had not seen earlier this year. And when you add it all up, Texas A&M could hang with Nebraska physically in ways that no other team that Nebraska played this year could. Maybe no other team in the country can, except for maybe Texas, I would say. And their pin hitters got the job done. Kendall Stowers, who is an incredible story, had 25 kills tonight and hit 327. This was a player that didn't think she was going to be able to play volleyball anymore after suffering 4 concussions during her freshman year at Baylor. Then Logan Lednicki had 24 kills, one of the best opposites in the country, including the final 2. And Emily Hellmuth, the OH2 for Texas A&M, huge, had 13 kills, put away a lot of balls. Texas A&M's outsides and their pin hitters, 62 of their 75 kills, and Nebraska just could not match that.
Yeah, what a weekend for the Stowers family. I think her brother plays football at Vanderbilt and won the Mackey Award for the best tight end in the country, and now she's going to the Final Four for the first time.
What a fun Christmas that's going to be!
Yeah, what'd you do this December? Just best tight end in college football. Made the Final Four for the first time in school history. want to get, we're kind of, while we're talking about the pin hitters a little bit too, I want to, Bruce Shane has a question in the Discord. And we can kind of go there. I mean, you mentioned the physicality and it's kind of the block they were doing. So his question is, how did A&M neutralize Nebraska's attacking so much?
You want me to take the first stab at that?
Well, I think you already did. You kind of you answered with the physicality and just the middle.
A&M's blocking was really good. A&M had 17 blocks in this match, which was the most by a Nebraska opponent this season. Also, they combined that with service pressure that, teams showed you throughout the year that they could put service pressure on Nebraska. Another one of sort of the, potential tripwires that Nebraska had this season was a serve receive game that wasn't always super strong. They could get aced, they could get out of system, and Texas A&M, served 9 aces served by A&M tonight, also a season high for a Nebraska opponent, and they put it on Nebraska starting in game 1 when Nebraska gave up their 10-3 lead when Texas A&M went on a 10-0 run in game 1. That was the moment that you realized that Nebraska was going to have its hand full and could be in trouble tonight.
Yeah, that was going to be my kind of, after you were talking about the difference with the pin hitters. My other takeaway too was service pressure that A&M was able to put on Nebraska too. I mean, not only that 10-0 run was done by Afena Kos-Apkala. We talked to her post game. She didn't even realize it was a 10-0 run. She just knew it was a long run too. It's like, oh, it was 10-0. Like that. I mean, is definitely by far the longest service run Nebraska's ever given up, and maybe had flashbacks to the Texas national title match from a few years ago too. But I mean, it wasn't just her. Maddie Walk, she finished with 4 aces, ended the second set with an ace, I think, or it was one of the first 2 sets that she had an ace, ace to end it. She did a great job putting pressure on Nebraska. Just look, who else had aces? It was Emily Helmuth had 2. Tatum Thomas, the libero, had 1 too. So it was a number of different servers that really put pressure. And like you said, I think that goes to Nebraska's attacking woes too, because if you're not getting aces, if you're making Nebraska's Satterberg and Riley run all over the court to get that second touch because of a tough pass, it impacts the offense.
Well, and let's talk about Riley too, because we kind of have to. It is no secret that Bergen Riley was not well at her full health this weekend. She was sick on Friday in the Sweet 16 match against Kansas. Nebraska hit 450, so didn't seem that bad, but she was not playing her best today, and I think Nebraska's pin hitters were maybe feeling that a little bit. Harper Murray ended up, pulling out of it and having a pretty good match for her. 25 kills was her season high. But then if you look at the other pins that Nebraska had with Taylor Land, was it a career high?
Career high, yeah.
Yeah. Taylor Landfair and Virginia Adriano just were not able to put balls away like you need them to in an Elite Eight match like this. And we talked about it a little bit throughout the year. Like, let's look at the kill percentages. Don't look at the hitting percentages. Look at the kill percentages of some of these pin hitters. And coming into this match, like Nebraska's pins were not just setting the world on fire in the way that you kind of need one of those pin hitters to do to win a national championship. And yet, despite all of that, Nebraska was 2 points away from winning this match. Like this is the equivalent of a double overtime game in basketball where the team that played better in the second OT ended up winning.
Yeah. I mean, to go at the Bergen Riley, I think the biggest thing where you saw her not being fully healthy at full strength was her connection with Andy Jackson. It was just off. Like there's so many that Andy couldn't get a full swing on this, so she just had to tip over. The slides were okay, and just kind of the connection was off too. We'll talk about this later more. Maybe there's a quote by Danny Busboom Kelly in the post-game press conference that I wanted to share that kind of showed you how much Bergen was struggling a little bit. I mean, they're talking about that exciting end of the 4th set and how Nebraska was able to rebound. And then here's what Danny said. I felt like we were pretty ready. It's tough. You look at our setter and it's like, are you going to make it? And she's looking at you like, I don't know. So
that speaks volumes. And let's say too, if this had been, 2 weeks ago before Campbell Flynn gets injured in practice this week, Riley's probably not in the match. Like if she's that sick, Nebraska goes with Campbell Flynn, the freshman, and it just goes to show you like that a sick Bergen Riley still seems like the best option that Nebraska had at setter. And let's not forget, like Riley, yes, has her hands on the offense all the time. She's also a great back row defender. A&M was able to land a lot of tips over the block on Sunday night. She's also a pretty good blocker, and A&M's pin hitters just kind of tooled Nebraska's block. Nebraska's block adjusted to it pretty late, and Cindy points this out here in the YouTube comment, says needed to adjust our block, was too low, kept getting tooled. Like A&M was just tooling the heck out of Nebraska's block.
Yeah.
Especially in the first two games, in a way that I keep waiting for Nebraska's pin hitters to do, and it just never seems to happen. But credit A&M, like they took advantage of what Nebraska was giving them, and an A game from A&M was good enough to beat a B- game or B+ game for Nebraska today.
Yeah, and I think, I think Nebraska still would have gone with Riley, but I think they would have rode her as long as she was physically able to go. And then that's when you bring in Campbell Flynn just to kind of take over once she's hit that point of physical exhaustion, which you wonder what Nebraska could have done with the healthy Bergen Riley. But I think as we were talking, this is the most important matches are being fought during the height of cold and flu season. So every year it seems like someone's getting sick, and you got to battle through that as well too.
So you have to have a lot of talent. You have to work really hard, but you also kind of got to be lucky to win a national championship. And I'm not damning A&M with faint praise here and be like, they got lucky. Like everything, the stars have to align for you to win a title. Like 15 minutes before the match today, Ali Chet steps on a ball during warmups and rolls her ankle and has to basically get carried to the locker room. You think she wouldn't have come in the match when Virginia Adriano was struggling after the first two sets? Like absolutely she would have. What other program does that happen to? your backup?
That was very ominous. Yeah. I saw she was in a walking boot after them too. So I think, when she went down, she got kind of hobbled to the bench, and then they carried her out. I thought maybe just retape her ankle, but it was pretty a pretty bad ankle roll that she finally came out in the third set wearing street clothes. So it wouldn't. I think that's when you look at what Nebraska was trying to do during that first two sets too. Danny looks to her bench and what she can do to change up the momentum, change up the energy. Ali Czech is one of those first choices. They went with Manaya Obeche to kind of do it. But I think she's definitely a energy injector when she comes into the match when Nebraska just needs a little boost.
We're going to look big picture back at the season here in just a little bit. I do want to read Josh's comment. For a sad day, team had a chance to be one of the greats. Instead, will be remembered as a good team that lost at home in the postseason for the first time in 60 matches. And, this is a loss that is definitely going to be talked about for a long time, and it fits in a context of how Nebraska's season has ended the last couple of years. I think DC Husker had a really intelligent comment in our I-80 Club Discord. He said, if I can find it now, but it was something to the effect, and I'm paraphrasing a little bit, it's really hard to be a national championship or bust program, right? And I think we have tried to prepare people throughout the season on the show. Like, if you are saying that if the team does not win the national championship, then the season is a failure, like you're bound to be disappointed. When the 33-1, that one is the only thing that you remember. Like those are pretty high standards, but also like this is the standard that the program has set, and they become a victim of their own success kind of on nights like tonight.
Yeah. Well, we'll dive more into that topic in rotation too, but that's a good kind of thought to keep in your mind as you're dealing with the sadness, you're dealing with the disappointment, you're dealing with kind of, a little shock probably right now too. But the other thing that I think A&M really did, you mentioned they tooled off the block too, but they played such a fast tempo that Nebraska had a tough time closing the block. There's a number of times where, like, especially Virginia Adriano was late getting out, so they were able to come line. And I think just the tempo in Nebraska, they eventually sped up. I think it got better as the match wore on, but I think it was another thing that A&M was able to exploit of Nebraska's blocks besides just hitting off of it.
A&M setter Maddie Walk, I thought, was really impressive tonight. Yes. She pushed the fastball to the left side that let Stowers and Hellmuth get on top of things and hit against a wide open block. And Nebraska's block was very slow to recognize things and get up. And then kind of they kept Lednicki active long enough for her to kind of figure things out in game 5. What I think A&M deserves a lot of credit for too is not folding after losing game 4. A&M was up 18-11 in the fourth set and let that lead slip away like they did a couple times against Louisville in the Sweet 16 on Friday. And how many times have we seen in this sport where momentum can roll downhill like a snowball on you? You blow a lead like that in game 5 is like not close, but A&M didn't, right? One of the things you notice about A&M, they're all seniors except for Kendall Stowers, who's a redshirt sophomore. They're all seniors. Walk's a senior, Lednicki's a senior, Kasapala and Morgan Perkins, their middles are seniors. They have played a ton of volleyball, and they probably are one of the few teams that are more veteran in the country than Nebraska.
Yeah. I mean, this is where we remember talking about this several times this year about how the talent level was down too. Well, not for teams like Nebraska and A&M, which really stocked up on seniors or kept seniors in their program and pipeline as well too. So it's So I mean, we've talked a lot of themes. Do you want to get game by game, break this down a little bit here?
Yeah. One other thing that I noticed in this game, and then we can get into numbers. A&M seemed to win every 50-50 ball, right? Yeah. They would make a great diving stop and pop the ball up at the net where their hitter could get a swing on it. Again, this is not, grousing about luck. You make your own luck in this sport, but a lot of the long rallies, a lot of the high ball out of system plays, A&M won those. And when one team is kind of winning all those, it just discourages you, because we've seen Nebraska win those plays so many times over the years, and it's just so deflating to the other team. And A&M, didn't play like a visiting team in John Cook Arena. They were the ones getting to winning the 50-50 balls, making some incredible saves on defense. Like, they were able to slug it out with Nebraska, but they were able to scrap it out with them too.
Yeah, I remember we were sitting next to each other during the game too, and there was one Harper Murray tip that she went to the front right would be for her angle too, and just like, that's going to be a kill. But then the libero, A&M used 2 liberos. I can't remember. I think it was.
Oh, this is the game 5. This is the game 5 play I think you're talking about, where Ava Underwood saved a point. We can talk about that when we get to game 5.
All right,
that was the encapsulation of how good A&M's defense was. And Josh says here, A&M played defense like we're used to Nebraska playing defense. By the way, we're taking comments from YouTube tonight. If you want to feed us a super chat, we'd be super grateful to support the work that we're doing here on Volleyball State, and it will make sure that your comment gets read on the air tonight and left up in a prominent position. So you can leave those super chats there on YouTube. Thank you so much, and thanks very much again to our Volleyball State subscribers who are joining us in the Discord. Lincoln, you want to get into numbers?
Yes. Let's get game by game. Start with game 1, 2. I think this is where I thought Nebraska came out on fire. I mean, Nebraska jumped out to a 10-3 lead. The Devaney Center was hopping. You felt like, all right, Nebraska's got momentum. They got energy. But the A&M was able to take that punch and settle into the match. And it really kind of, even before their big run, they trimmed it up a little bit too. I mean, they were down. They got it back to, was it 13-10, and then they were down 15 to 10 when Andy Jackson had her first error of the match too. And she tried to go line, and it was just wide by the slightest margin. I think that shot.
Well, and it happened twice. I remember it happening twice. The first 2 times that Jackson tried to hit down the line on the slide, she pushed it just wide, and then she stopped doing it, and she started to hit everything cross or tip. And that was something Nebraska needed to convert on tonight. Yeah.
So that error gave the Texas A&M side out. I found a Kasapala back to the service line. And I mean, that 10-0 run, how does a 10-0 run happen? One, you serve tough, and I found a Kasapala.
It's just Apala, I think. The K is silent.
Apala, thank you.
Like a night at the Apala.
She had 2 different aces, and then all of Nebraska's 4 hitting errors came during that 10-0 run too. You had that Jackson error. Murray got blocked again, and then Jackson again, same play as what started the run too. She tried to go down the line on that slide attack, and again it was just wide. And then I kind of ended the run with an ace before finally. And then what happened after her ace, again, Danny was looking for the energy chain. Manayo Obeche came in and got a kill on her first play. And that kind of gave Nebraska a little bit more energy.
Yeah, I have seen a number of these comments on social media already, or in the our YouTube here, kind of like what you thought. 1343 says, like, what happened with Andy Jackson didn't make sense why she was subbed out. I don't agree with that. I think she had 6 kills, 5 errors on 22 swings, and I think the words Danny said afterwards when asked about it was nothing was going right for her, which I would agree with. Like, she was not having success, and it wasn't just like a neutral, it was harming Nebraska with her getting blocked or her hitting out of bounds, and so that happens sometimes, and that's why Obeje is such a good energy changer to come in, because Obeje is usually pretty low error, and I know she got blocked a couple times, but Nebraska needed a change at that position. And yes, it's surprising that like their almost school record hitting percentage leader needed to come out, but if your best player in basketball misses like 8 straight shots, like maybe you sit him down for a little bit and let him breathe.
And I think, getting her out, especially late in that first game after she had those 2 hitting errors too. You've seen this happen multiple times with this year. You get some time on the bench, you mentally reset, you talk to the coaches, figuring out what you're doing wrong, make some corrections, and come back in, and then you get back into it. And just Andy was never able to snap out of it. I mean, she like you said, she did have 6 kills. And so I mean, again, I don't know if the illness that was running around the team hit her at all too, but she just looked like a different player than what we had seen throughout this year too. And I think a little bit is that A&M's physicality.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's something that you and I talked about as we were watching the match. This is where Bergen Riley from the outset was not having her best day. And you see this a lot when the outsides start tipping. Harper Murray had a good start to the match, but then once that run was going by Casapala from the service line, lots and lots of tipping. Murray got bounce blocked a few times. And so it's like, were the sets a little too inside? You thought maybe that they were a little high. So the jumps were timed, but Taylor Landfair was just tipping all over the place and finally got some bigger swings as the match went on. But that was a giant flashing red warning sign for Nebraska when Murray and Landfair were tipping as much as they were in game 1.
Yeah, and the strange part is, I mean, Nebraska was down 20-10 after giving up that huge run. Nebraska was not
20
out of
to 18 or 17.
It was 20-15 at the end of the run, but Nebraska came back. They got within 21-20. And then they were 23-22. They were down. And that's when Storrs had that kill. And then it ends up with that Maddie Walk had an ace. So this is where her ace comes in. Off Lainey Troboy did not have the best passing. I mean, but she was targeted all night. She had 45 serve receptions. 5 errors is probably a little bit more than you want. Well, it's definitely more than you want. But that was A&M's game plan, was to go at Troboy and attack her with their serve.
Are you surprised at that? Just because we've seen, I think most of the other teams in the tournament lately were targeting Harper Murray and just trying to wear her down. But it seemed like A&M was going at Mauk, going at Choboy, Sigler to an extent, although she held up pretty well, I thought.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I was that surprised. I mean, the Mauk was number 2. She had 20, and then Harper had 17, 11 for Sigler. So it wasn't. I think that they must have saw something. Yeah, we had talked previously too that Choboy has been on quite the tear passing wise and been probably one of the team's best passers, especially in the libero position. But I don't know, it was just the way they served. But a little bit surprised too. But they stuck with it. And I think that can really wear down the libero.
Nice to see a Joel Supp appearance, by the way. Thanks, Joel. He says the serve and pass game usually tells the tale, and A&M was much more aggressive, which I would agree with. Nebraska's middles had to respect all the hitters due to perfect passes. Combine that with quick tempo, it was tough. That's true. I think, you and I mentioned this late in game 4. Nebraska kind of dialed back the service pressure. I think they were worried about missing serves. This was a Nebraska team that all year long didn't really find a way to serve super aggressively and be low error, or at least accept the errors that come with being aggressive. And A&M, I'm comfortable saying Nebraska was lollipopping serves a lot of the night. And A&M was just in system, and they could run that fast tempo, and Nebraska did not make it easier on their defense. A&M definitely won serve and pass tonight.
Yeah. I think they they say with aggression, that aggression carried over from service line to hitting balls out of system too. They fell into that what Danny Busman's favorite mantra of "rip it, don't tip it," and it paid off for them in the end. Let's move on to the second set here. Keep it going. A&M came out really fast. I mean, Matty Walk had a ace to put him up 4-1 too, but Nebraska, they battled back. Harper Murray had an ace. They got a couple blocks, and Nebraska was actually up 8-6. And this is where, again, A&M's pressure came back. Matty Walk had a couple more aces to put them up 14-11. And really, that middle part of the set, too, that run kind of gave them the separation. They had a few more points. But Nebraska never really – I mean, they got it as close at the end to 25-22, but A&M felt like they were in control the entire set.
Yeah. Absolutely. And that's why I don't know that we need to take a ton more time in game 2, nor really on game 3. Like Nebraska sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I would say before we get into that game 3, we got a question from Hannah Marie in the chat too. Were you surprised when they came back after the intermission that they did not change liberos? Because this was where Troy Boy was really struggling those first two, because they gave up. I mean, Walk had 3 different aces in that second set too. Were you surprised they didn't change liberos?
Did anyone ask Danny Busboom Kelly about that after the match?
No.
I was surprised. I was surprised when it didn't happen, right? I figure if they were going to make a change, it was going to be during the intermission. And I think, Laney took a lot of heat from some of the fans online about why didn't Nebraska make a libero change? As the match went on, I don't know that Laney was really Nebraska's biggest problem. Nebraska passed better, it felt like, as the match went on. I think it was more A&M's pin hitters were really good. And if you gave them a chance, if you didn't put balls away, then they were going to come right back at you. And Nebraska passed well enough for Rebecca Alec to get some good swings, for Manayo Beje to get some good swings later in the match. Like, my issue is more with Nebraska's pins needed to put balls away. And maybe that is a reflection on the setting. Sometimes I give a little bit too much heat maybe to the outsides than the setter, as I am not an expert enough to watch and evaluate setter play in real time. But, I don't know that it would have been a big difference had Olivia Mauck been the libero for the last 3 sets.
Yeah. And I think this goes back to the aggression with the servers. I mean, Matt Calloway made the point in our Discord too, that saying that A&M had more service errors. Yes. I mean, A&M finished with 12 service errors. Nebraska only had 6, but I think that goes back to the point that you were making, is Nebraska dialed back that service pressure, where A&M, they cranked it up high and they stood by that the entire match too. This is kind of the Stanford mindset of, we're going to serve aggressive, and that's going to benefit us more than it'll cost us. I mean, it cost them 12 points. But 12 service errors in a 5-set match really isn't that much. No, I think 1 or 2 per set is quite livable, and that's just over 2 per set. And I think A&M was definitely, because they were. I mean, a lot of those. I mean, a couple more into the net too, but a lot of them were long. And even when they were in, there was a lot of passing that was going on that Nebraska was passing on the side of their body rather than the platform. Much better platforms in front of
really tough jump float serves that A&M was running out there. They didn't really have a big top spin jump server like we've seen a couple teams. Nebraska does get a set back. They win game 3 25-20, which ends up being the biggest margin of any of the sets in the match. Harper Murray came up big with 6 kills in game 3, and Nebraska had things rolling, right? They hit 462 in game 3, which makes you think, all right, maybe the comeback is on. And then we get to game 4, which is one of the longest, craziest, greatest single frames of volleyball I have ever seen in person.
Yeah. I mean, there's been a few others. They showed, was it Minnesota and Oregon had a set in the tournament that reached 40s, I think. I saw
41-39 a couple years ago.
Yeah, and I saw that. But I think given the stakes of this and just kind of the legacies of this, I mean, it was match point. Nebraska faced some match points. This was
3 match points.
Yeah. This was one of the highest stakes, most exciting, thrilling matches that were sets that I've ever seen. So I don't think we're being prisoners of the moment when we say that this was one of the most exciting sets that I've ever witnessed. I think as well too. So I mean, it started out, it did not look good. for Nebraska too. I mean, Texas A&M came out, jumped out. They went up 11-7 after 4 straight Nebraska hitting errors. Harper Murray had a back row attack that went long. Taylor Landfair tried to do a roll shot that went long. Landfair tried to do a cross body that went long, and then Adriano. I'm trying to read my chicken scratch writing, but as Adriano got blocked. And you think, oh no, Nebraska is down 11-7 after 4 straight hitting errors. Is their luck running out? Is the A&M withstand? And it got worse from there.
It got worse from there. A&M ultimately led Game 4 18-11, and everyone is starting to write their season-ending social media posts and maybe their quick game stories. But oh no, Nebraska comes back with an 8-1 run, tying it at 19. Yeah. There were a couple blocks. Nebraska's block finally got A&M a couple times. Rebecca Alec brings them back, has a couple kills in the run. And the next thing you know, it's 19-19. And then the set was only half over.
Yeah. You mentioned that too. My game notes go from I have 13-9. A&M is up, and the next kind of game score I have is 19-18. Like, oh no, like I need to take a break and pay closer attention to it. And it went back and forth, and really, Nebraska was up 24-23 after a great out of system play too, where Lainey Choboy did a nice little bump set to Adriano on the right pin that she just fired down to, and think, oh, Nebraska, they can do this. But there was a lot of volleyball left at that point too. I mean,
Nebraska, we don't need to go point by point in this.
No,
I know we both have our notebooks out. Nebraska had 10 set points in this set, right? This is Bjorn Borg, John McEnroe at Wimbledon. 10 set points Nebraska had. A&M saved the first 9 of them. Then A&M had 3 match points.
Yeah.
A&M was up 32-31 after Harper Murray sent a shot wide. After Nebraska ran out of subs, I think both teams ran out of subs in this. So Mania Obeje, who had served one time all season before this, had to serve, and she served it out of bounds
twice. And both of them
this set went on so long that Mania Obeje had to go through another 6 rotations and come back and serve again later in the set. She served it out of bounds again. I think that made it 33-32. But Obeje was in the match because Andy Jackson was struggling. It was one of several times that Obeje came in the match. And then finally, do you remember the reserve point too, when we're tied at 34?
Yes.
The official blew a quick whistle. I think he called a ball handling error on Harper Murray for sending the ball over on 2. And then he realized right away that he made a mistake, so he made the reserve signal. And Nebraska ended up winning that point when Stowers hit the ball out of bounds. But this finally ends up, we're tied 35-35. Murray tucks a ball through the A&M block. I have no idea how she did it, and I don't think the crowd realized she did it either. No. It was like a high bump set in the middle of the court, and instead of thundering it off hand, she somehow got it underneath the A&M block in a way that Nebraska really struggled to do all day.
And that was another out of system, because that also came from Lainey Choboy, another assist from her, and another wild match. Quick update: Wisconsin is up 2-0. They won the second set 25-21.
I knew they were going to win this match, right? If Texas comes back and reverse sweeps it. I had this in my bracket. I called it from the beginning. I'm the biggest Nebraska-based Wisconsin believer, apparently. I said that they're playing better than any team in the country right now, and they're up 2-0 in Austin. So I guess that and 50 cents will get me a cup of coffee.
You did it, though. Yeah. So Nebraska gets their 10th set point, and the next rally kind of happens, and it goes to Adriano again on the right side. And again, another out of system play from Lainey Choboy, and she goes high hands, and it sails long. But again, there was the line judge, is the line judge on Nebraska's end, put his hand on the flag and called the touch too. And it had to stand because both teams were out of challenges. Both teams were out of timeouts. Both teams were out of subs too. So, I mean, I think A&M protested that, but they couldn't do anything about it.
They got one to go their way in Game 5 though. So, It did even out. But yeah, Nebraska wins a 37-35 marathon in game 4. Were you able to do any looking up? Like, is that the longest set Nebraska's ever played in the rally scoring era since we've gone to 25?
I did not. I was
just like,
I was trying to write
word
game
for
it.
It's the longest one I remember. Like, Nebraska doesn't get into the 30s that much, but it's not the longest set in NCAA history, but it's probably the longest set Nebraska's played in the rally scoring era, and certainly in the 25-point rally scoring era. So let's go to game 5.
Let's see if I can do a quick search of games.
I'll just talk for a little bit and you can look it up. I'll start here. It was tied 5-5 when Harper Murray landed an ace. And then the key point of the 5th, what we kind of alluded to a second ago, Nebraska looks like they've tied it 7-7 when Rebecca Alec hits the ball off the A&M block and out of bounds on the slide, a nice tool. But officials ruled that it caught Alec on the way down. And I actually watched the replay when I got home right before we started. And it does look like the ball went off her back. She didn't hit a super high flat angle like trademark Paul Sunderland. And so the ball actually came back down and brushed her back or her shoulder before it went out of bounds. And instead of 7-7, A&M goes up 8-6 at the changeover and then comes out of the changeover with 2 more points to go up 10-6. And one of them, just an incredible play by A&M's libero, Ava Underwood, who Murray tries to tip the ball during a scramble. This falls like 98% of the time for Harper Murray. She tried to tip it to zone 4, that front left at the A&M defense. And Underwood comes in, gets a pancake up. One of these plays that A&M made so many times today, popped the ball up in the air and was able to win the rally in kind of a scramble drill play, like a beach volleyball rally. And so they go up 10-6. And like at that point, it just kind of felt like it was over.
Yeah. Quick research. I don't believe Nebraska's ever had a 37-35. I found some 36-34s, including and quite the echo of history too, when Nebraska lost in the regional final to USC in 2004. It won the 4th set 36-34 over USC, but then lost the 5th set 15-12. That was Sarah Pavin's freshman year. I remember I covered that match, and that was exciting.
Yeah,
but that's also, I should say, that's also when they were playing to 30 points per set. So it's
Pavin set the school record for kills in a match in that match that I believe still stands. So A&M makes it look like this is over. They're up 13-9. But then Nebraska gives you a little bit more hope, right? It's the hope that kills you. The Huskers go on a 3-0 run. Alec gets a kill. Choboy lands an ace. And Adriano blocks Kendall Stowers. And it's 13-12 all of a sudden. And you're like, oh my gosh, is this it? Are we going to be talking about this match 20 years from now? But no, Logan Lednicki, who had her ups and downs in this match. I think she had 12 hitting errors for A&M. Gets A&M's final 2 kills sandwiched around a Harper Murray kill. And A&M pulls it out 15-13. You know, if you separate the heartbreak from it for a second for Nebraska fans, this was an absolute all-timer, an absolute classic.
Yeah, too. And you this is where I think Nebraska's lack of service pressure really came back to hurt them too. I mean, Olivia Mack gave the best serve she could too, but they did not stress A&M much with their serve late in that, and they ran in system, got the ball they wanted to Nikki on the right pin, and she put it down to the floor. So it was, and then celebrations happen on A&M's, and the tears start flowing for Nebraska. It was a tough pill to swallow right there too, because again, you felt that after that 4th set, maybe Nebraska's destined, and again, the atmosphere was electric. The fans were giving Nebraska energy and juice. So it was a tough way for it to end, and just kind of the air got sucked out of Devaney at that point.
We've had a number of questions come in, and it's getting a little chippy here in the YouTube comments, which doesn't surprise me because it's the internet, but like, we're not going to read some of this stuff. Niles has a good question. He asks in the IID Club Discord, hey, would love a breakdown of maybe some coaching decisions, what seemed to work and what didn't. We addressed one of the bigger ones, I think, already, where we talked about the libero switch. Would I have been surprised to see one? No, I think anything's worth trying. But also, I don't know that Choboy was like Nebraska's biggest problem tonight. The big one, right? And we talked about this too as we were sitting there. Andy Jackson was not brought back into the match after she came out at the end of game 4. She did not come in for game 5. And I think that was the 3rd time she had been subbed out. The first two times that Obeche came in for her, Jackson was in at the start of the next set. Were you surprised that we did not see Andy Jackson at all in game 5?
Yes. Yes, because I think in the game's biggest moment, you hate to have one of your best players. I mean, I still think Andy Jackson's going to be named middle blocker of the year by the AVCA next week or this week or later this week. To not have her on the court with your season on the line was surprising to me too. But I mean, they trusted in Minaya Obeche. Danny Busman-Kelly has said multiple times too that she would start almost every other program too. She's just stuck behind 2 All-Americans. That they trusted her, and she validated that belief up to that point in the match too, and they were going to roll with it.
Yeah, I think I'm also surprised, right? Like I'm surprised that you didn't put her out there to start game 5, but then maybe Busman-Kelly didn't think that she had enough room, right? When you're racing to 15, that if you send her through the front row, because she doesn't start in the front row in sets. She comes in, I think, in rotation 3. Or maybe rotation 2, but it's Alec that's always out there to start. So like if you had put her out there and she struggles a couple times, and the next thing you know, you're down like 7-4, and there's not a lot of time to fix things. Which she did. That we didn't see her.
Yeah, Obeche, she got blocked twice, and she only had 3 swings in that third set too, and she got blocked. The second time she was blocked, they were down. They were down 7-5. She got blocked at 3-5, and then 7-5 A&M's up too. That I mean, she got subbed out the next side out, so she didn't have much of a chance, and Alec kind of finished the rest of the match. So a little bit.
Here's the one that I wonder about though, and Taylor Landfair. I think her limitations we've pretty well acknowledged, and people have been trying to say over the last week that I've seen on social media, like, well, it doesn't matter that Landfair is not the most terminal outside hitter. To which I say, I respectfully disagree. If you're Danny Busman-Kelly, it's easy to say from like the bald, comfortable chairs we sit in, would you have tried a player like Skylar Pierce to come in and just try to switch up that energy a little bit? I think that one of the reasons why that change wasn't made is Landfair is still a really big blocking presence up there, and you needed her against Logan Lednicki, just like she did a good job against Babcock in the season opener for Pittsburgh. And Pierce is just not the blocker that Landfair is, but like to get very little from that position offensively when A&M's pins were able to do what they do, like that just really stings.
Yeah, it's you do that too. But I mean, Pierce she's had very little on-court time this year too, and I don't know if she's ever played many points of consequences. She had longer runs against some inferior opponents, but she never really had many opportunities to prove herself against matches where it was in doubt or in question. So it's hard. You don't know how she's going to react to that environment too. Whereas you got your 6th-year senior out there, but I do wish. I mean, it would have been nice just give it a try sometime in second or third set, just see if that could have been one of the energy sparks that Nebraska was looking for too. But again, I mean, we can question this now too, but I think that, I mean, of reasons why Nebraska lost this match, I think that the coaching decisions are 4th, 5th, 6th there. I mean, you talk about health, you talk about just an inability.
A&M playing really, really good.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I don't think that the coaching decisions were detrimental to Nebraska's chances to win this.
No. And the feelings are very big right now. Let's acknowledge that. Nebraska goes 33-1. People are super disappointed. They're frustrated. They think, you see the word failure thrown around online, in my opinion, inaccurately, that like, oh, hey, everyone talked up this team and they thought they were going to win the national title. And so clearly we have to question every single decision that was made this match. I don't agree with that, but I do think this makes for a nice segue to roll into rotation 2 and kind of look at Nebraska's season in a little bit larger context. I was trying to think, like, as the match was happening, what are the biggest surprise losses in Nebraska volleyball history? The 2007 regional final, I think, is hard to top. That's where Nebraska was number 1. They were the best team in Nebraska history to that point, and they got upset. They had lost once during the regular season at Colorado, but like they were thumping teams. The cracks started to show a little bit in the Sweet 16 that year. They reverse swept Minnesota to make it to the Elite 8, but then they got swept by Cal in the Elite Eight in 2007. So that to me is still the most surprising loss in Nebraska volleyball history. I think even including today, the shocker in 2011 where Nebraska lost in the second round at the Coliseum to Kansas State. And then, of course, like the recent heartbreak, the 5-set loss to Penn State last year when Nebraska was up 21-16 in game 4 and had 2 match points they couldn't put away. So it's just this one is up there and is going to sting for a long time.
Yeah, I think you talk about that. I think that 2011 match is always brought up a lot because that was one of the last times Nebraska did not reach a regional final. They were the 2 overall seed against I think Kansas was unseeded at that. They only seeded the top 16 seeds at that point, and with a regional trip to Hawaii on the line, and the Wildcats got the best of them. And I'm just trying to think of other ones where Nebraska had their chances. I mean, I still think it wasn't shocking, but that the 2022 regional semifinal loss to Oregon when they had multiple match points in the 4th set. And
they won game 1 like 25-14 or something.
Yeah, because Oregon's body clock was at 9 a.m. That was an 11 a.m. start Central Time. And Oregon's body clock said it was 9 a.m. So it's that one comes up. And I think some of those other ones that you talk about too.
Friend of the show, Brooke Nuneviller played in that match for Oregon.
Yeah, it was a weird
the team
match.
I think that ultimately this year's Huskers are going to most parallel, and I was not paying attention to college volleyball at this time, but in 1994, Nebraska was the number 1 ranked team in the country. They were undefeated at 31-0. They rolled through the first 2 matches of the tournament, and then they played number 5 Penn State in the regional final in the Coliseum and lost in 4. That to me is maybe the biggest parallel to the 2025 season, from being undefeated and ranked number 1 and then losing to a really good, but team that you're expected to beat in at home in the regional final. So if you're looking for another parallel, that's Nebraska. But I feel like there was just some bad juju signs. I talked to John Baylor very briefly after the match, and I said, omens and ill portents were popping up because it starts with sort of the general attitude that Nebraska was untouchable. And I feel like we tried to pull the e-brake on that just a little bit. And like, they're not untouchable, right? Like a really good team can beat them. And A&M is a really good team. Mikey here says sometimes you just have to give credit where credit's due. And A&M was outstanding. They're maybe the most physical team in the country. And I'm really excited to see them play Pitt. I think they're going to beat Pitt in Thursday and go to the title match. Maybe they end up playing, Wisconsin or Kentucky. That's going to be a great match if Wisconsin's able to hold on. But
you already eliminated Texas.
Yeah, sorry. Campbell Flynn breaking her finger in practice. Not a starter, but a key reserve, and a really nice piece to have if your starting setter is sick as a dog, like apparently Bergen Riley was this week. Several team members are ill, and then Check slipping on a banana peel or whatever happened on Saturday and getting hurt, and you hate that for her because by all accounts, Ali Check is just like an A+ human being and a really, really nice person, and your heart breaks for her.
But I wrote a story about this morning that we published on Husker Max too, about she was playing against her. Logan Lednicki, they grew up around the corner from each other in Sugar Land, Texas. They went to elementary, middle school, their high school teammates. And she knows a lot of those A&M girls for playing club ball with them too. And just, it was devastating to see that was kind of this. But I think what happened was Nebraska was doing their serving drills right before warmups too, and she just had a ball, was turning to walk back to practice her serve, and the ball just caught. I didn't see it happen, but if it went under her foot or hit her foot, and
I didn't see it, to be honest. I didn't even know anything had happened, and because I was not watching warmups until I think I saw like Amy just tweet about it, or you tweet about it, or something.
Amy saw it live. I was talking with her too, and she saw it live too. And like, did you just see what I saw? And like, she got taken to the bench and then got helped out, and they had to get her dad out of the stands. So it was, it's not something and that also reminded me of 22. This is completely a little bit different too, but Kenzie Knuckles suffered that devastating knee injury the last week, and that just kind of. She was starting playing a prominent role, and that just changed Nebraska's defense. But just to lose someone like that, even she's a reserve, but she's a key reserve, and it changes up your momentum and mental state, and to deal with that is tough.
Yeah, Arch says, was it just me or did Bergen look white as a ghost? She looked nowhere close to well. Yeah, you're not the only person I think I've heard say that. And it's really unfortunate, right? That one of your best players, the 3-time Big Ten setter of the year, goes into this match, not at her best. Another thought I've seen bouncing around the internet, Lincoln, and I admit I've had it too. We talked about it a little bit at the match. Was Nebraska hurt by not playing a truly great team for the last 3 months? And that's not to take away like the other, Big Ten contenders. We know the Big Ten was down a little bit this year. Penn State was not a trademark Penn State team. And Nebraska got to play Wisconsin when Charlie Furbringer was out. So, like, this is the best team Nebraska's played, maybe going back to Creighton and maybe even going back to Kentucky. That's 3 months without playing a top 5, top 10 level opponent. Did that hurt Nebraska this year?
I think a little bit. I mean, Nebraska, we this was a point we talked to them, like, how do you deal with this? I mean, you're sweeping every match. How are you ready to go when the match goes 5 sets? Are you in shape to do this? And they said, our practice gym is so tough that the drills and situations they're put in will prepare them for anything they'll face in a match. And I think it did affect them a little bit too, because I mean, yes, you can simulate the situations, but you can't simulate Texas A&M's physicality. You can try to with some of the grad managers serving a little bit tougher. I think it was just a little bit more challenging for Nebraska to crank it up when the moment called for it.
Some breaking news here that is going to impact the Big Ten next year. It looks like Alexa Stuckey, who transferred away from Florida, has committed to Penn State. So Penn State is going to get their transfer setter. No surprise there. And I think Penn State's probably going to bring in another couple transfers as well and try to retool for 2026. And the portal is another whole thing that maybe we talk about on next week's show. We've got 700 players in the transfer portal, and even more are going to enter next week. It remains to be seen whether Nebraska is going to have anyone either leave or come in. I don't have any sort of inside information on that just yet, and so we'll see what happens kind of over the next week.
You think it's the college game. There's always going to be some roster movement too. They are getting 3 new players coming in too. But I mean, before we look at that too, I think again want to reiterate the point that we've made over the last few weeks and even the months of the whole season. I mean, I still think, Nebraska, people may judge them on the outcome, but this was a very good season. Nebraska won the Big Ten for the 3rd straight year. They were dominant. They were one of the best offenses that we've seen in several years too. I think this will go with those other teams you mentioned too, like the 24 team, the 07 team, teams that were really, really good and should be proud of, but just ultimately fell short.
I think CJ has a good point here in the Facebook comments. Says the unfortunate part about the narrative that Nebraska didn't get pushed is that they couldn't control that, right? Yeah. Like Nebraska scheduled a really tough schedule. They played Pitt and Kentucky and Stanford, and they're going to play another tough schedule next year. And the Big Ten was what the Big Ten was. They played Penn State twice. They played Wisconsin once on the road. Like, that's a really good schedule. It's just nobody could really push them. Nobody saw Minnesota losing 4 starters. Even the Purdue team that Nebraska went into West Lafayette and swept was, maybe the 10th or 12th best team in the country. They weren't like a top 5 team. And so, this is what happens. Nebraska, we haven't mentioned this yet. None of the 2 seeds made it to the Elite Eight. No. It's the first time in like 15 years, I think. All of the 3 seeds beat the 2 seeds. And Nebraska, being the number 1 overall seed, had the weakest 2 seed in their region. But that means they had the best 3 seed, which A&M certainly was. A&M is a 3 seed that had the talent of a 2 seed. And that's, the NCAA tournament didn't screw Nebraska. It was just bad luck that they got given probably the worst matchup for them because of the physicality and experience of A&M. And Louisville did not take them out.
Yep. Yeah, I think that's what happens with the 8-9 matchup, that you're going to get the top 3 seed too. And I told some people since that. I think any other 3 seed in Nebraska's region and they walk easy too. Maybe not Wisconsin, but I think Purdue and Creighton, Nebraska is moving on to the Final 4.
Just real quick here, Nebraska has to find a way to have their pin hitters kill balls. Like, and I'm including Harper Murray in that too. Like, Murray had 25 kills, a career high. She also had 12 errors, and she hit 255. Now that's pretty decent, but like she needs to kill balls and be kind of that alpha terminator and take it to the next level as a senior. Nebraska's also got to figure out how their second outside hitter is going to kill balls. Taylor Landfair today, 7 kills, 3 errors on 25 swings. That's terminating on, I forget what I had it written down somewhere, but 30% of your swings, and your outside needs to probably be closer to 45% of balls they put away are kill, or swings are kills. Torreya Sigler is in line to be up there next year. We'll see what the Skylar Pierce is able to do if she's going to challenge for a starting spot next year. But Nebraska needs dominant pin hitters who can go out and kill balls, because those are the teams that win national championships.
Yeah, well, we'll see. Gabby DeVita's also coming in as a freshman too. What she can do too. But I think you saw a little bit what Harper Murray can do with her creativity. But when you run into teams that are as physical and have as good scrambling floor defense, they took away a little bit of her creativity as well today as well too. So I think that it's going to be interesting what happens over the next few weeks. The transfer portal is open till I think the first few days of January. That's when people get in. They don't have to commit until whenever they want, whenever their academic calendar dictates. So I'm
going to say one more whiny word about Tool School, and then I'll shut up about it until next fall. But if you watched A&M today, Kendall Stowers and Helmuth were tooling the block very effectively. They were firing high flat shots off Nebraska blockers' hands and into the third row. You can't dig a ball if it's into the third row. And Nebraska just has not done that the last couple years. They are not just swiping the ball off block with tips, but rearing back and hitting at an upward trajectory and firing the ball off opponents' hands and getting it out of bounds. And there are so many teams that I'm watching play in this tournament that has 1, maybe even 2 pin hitters that can do that. And it's just not a strength of Nebraska's current, batch of pin hitters. And I don't know if that's ability. I don't know if that's how they're being coached or what the expectation is. I would love to sit down with a Nebraska coach and ask about that. But it's a tool that is missing from Nebraska's toolbox that I think needs to be there.
Yeah, and we can get into a lot more of the roster breakdown. I think we'll talk about that next week when we do our end of the season podcast. We'll have a better idea by then, maybe what the transfer portal looks like, and that we have plenty of time to break down the rosters, because it's a long off season too. But I think, again, the final word that I thought is, Nebraska had a really fun season. I enjoyed following them. They did a lot of things that were very impressive. They again continued to grow the game. We haven't talked about this too, but this game was on ABC today too, and I'm excited to see. TV ratings only mean so much too, but I think this is going to be record breaking. This may approach levels of the championship match from last year. It's going to be one of the most watched college volleyball games too, and that's exciting to see, because they were treated to a really great game. It's hard to have that perspective, especially if you're rooting for Nebraska, that you want to burn the tape and forget about that. But if
you're not a regular Volleyball State listener, or you haven't joined us live very much, be sure to come back next week, because not only are we going to break down the Final Four and talk about this, but we're going to have a bigger picture look at what Nebraska might look like going into 2026, and it won't feel quite so like a group therapy session that we're having right now. You want to move into rotation 3 and talk about any other teams?
1 hour in, let's move away from the Nebraska volleyball, talk about what's going on. Because again, this is where I think why I like our podcast too, is we're not just talking about Nebraska volleyball. It has the context, because if you talk to us all year, we've talked about how good A&M is too. So you have the context. So we're going to continue to talk context.
If A&M hadn't lost that SEC semifinal match, SEC tournament match to Texas, they're probably a 2 seed. Is what I'm thinking. And they lost a couple matches early in the year. They lost to SMU. You want to talk about another team that got bit by the injury bug at the exact wrong time was SMU this season. They lost to TCU. And then the only teams they lost to for the rest of the year were Kentucky and Texas, 2 of the best 5 teams in the country. This team was really good, this Texas A&M team.
Yep, and they ended up losing to Purdue in how many sets was that? 4 sets, I think. They took a set.
4 or 5.
Yeah, they lost to Purdue, but they were also without their number 1 outside hitter, Jaden Livings, who did suffer that injury in the second round match too. But it came down to Pitt versus Purdue in the final, and Pittsburgh ends up pulling it out in 4 sets. They will be making their 5th straight Final Four appearance. They are still looking for their first national championship appearance, but that's just a model of great consistency, what Dan Fisher has done at Pittsburgh with the Panthers.
And they're going to play A&M. That's who the team is on the other side of the Lincoln
And that's
Regional.
the first match on Thursday will be that one I saw come through.
Okay, Pitt and A&M at like 6:30 on Thursday on ESPN, right? Or is it on ESPN too?
ESPN, I believe.
Okay. Whatever. You're all streaming now. Just look for the picture that has the volleyball in it. Olivia Babcock, no surprise here, the big gun for Pitt, 23 kills on 51 swings. She hit 333. Probably going to be named the National Player of the Year again. I would guess, especially now that Nebraska did not make the Final Four. But Pitt has also been able to develop some depth around Babcock this year. Marina Pejol had 14 kills and hit 323. Pitt hit 349 in the regional final against Purdue. So not too shabby there. Purdue, Akasha Anderson really had a strong end of the season, had 20 kills. Kenna Woolard, who had a great year, her first year as a starter for Purdue, had 15 kills.
First season as a starter as a left pin hitter. She's been in their opposite
as a left side because she played right side. And the brackets broke out like how they broke out. I still think Pitt got the easiest regional in this one. I think if this Nebraska team plays Creighton, like the result isn't super different than what Pitt was able, I'm in the wrong regional. If Nebraska got this Purdue team, I don't know that it's very different than what Pitt was able to do.
Yeah, I mean this is where I agree with you. Babcock made the difference too. I mean, one of the sets, I think both teams had like 19, 20 kills. There was just a lot of offense. I mean, a little bit of defense as the match wore on too. But I agree. Pitt is the number 4 overall seed. Got the bracket broke right, but again, they also had the weakest 3 seed in their bracket. So that's SMU is supposed to be the toughest 2 seed, the 5th overall seed, but that injury really changed their trajectory, and they just couldn't recover from losing their top attacker.
Rotation 4, the Kentucky bracket. Kentucky took care of Creighton in the regional final, held Creighton to 0.66 hitting. So Kentucky was dominant. I think Nebraska, if you had asked them if they want to switch places with Kentucky or Pitt, looking at this bracket, they probably would have taken them up on that. Ava Martin ends her fantastic career for Creighton kind of on a sour note. 8 kills on 31 swings, hit 0.97, but still one of the best players in Creighton history. And Kiera Reinhardt had a great end to her college career as well. Hit 429 in her final college match and had 7 kills. So that's the winningest class in Creighton history. I think Kiera Reinhardt won more matches as a Creighton player than any other Creighton player. But they had to run into Brooklyn DeLay and Eva Hudson, 2 of the best outside hitters in the country, in the regional final.
Yeah, they did what they did. They do with 18 kills, 13 for DeLay, 13 for Eva Hudson too. I think they're going to be a really big handful for whoever they fit. I didn't realize this is Kentucky's only second national semifinal that they made. They won the national title in the weird spring tournament, the spring of 2021. But that's when Madison Lilly was leading.
They hit 360 that year, by the way. It was incredible. But Kentucky's only other appearance in the Final Four was when they won the national title, and they're going to be matching up with either Texas or Wisconsin. What are we at right there?
Oh, it is 24-19 Texas, and the third set there, a set point away. Of course, there's a timeout every time we look at that. But also, props to Craig Skinner is great to see him. Him lead the cadet. He's a long time. He was at Nebraska, I think, through 2004, and then left to take over Kentucky, and has really built up that program to a model of consistency in the SEC. And every now and then he will peak and have a really good team on the national scene. That's what he has this year. With Cassie O'Brien, the setter, has really come in as a freshman, really stabilized their offense. And it's been fun to kind of watch them after Nebraska played them on that second weekend of the year in Nashville, to see them kind of continue to grow. And they're going to be a juggernaut. They beat Texas A&M this year as well too, and
swept them, I believe. It was it was not close. Well, so Kentucky is sort of the counter argument, right, to how Nebraska has assembled its team. Kentucky is they have good middles, but they're very pin dominant, and really they're left side pin dominant. They did it with Brooklyn DeLay, a player they signed out of Washburn Rural High School in Topeka, Kansas. So kind of right in a lot of Midwestern programs' backyard, and she turned out. They developed her. I don't want to say she turned out because none of this is luck.
She was the SEC Freshman of the Year too, so she came in right away.
And she was a really, really good player, and they add to that probably the top left side player in the transfer portal last year with Eva Hudson when she left Purdue. So like you can do worse. You can do worse than having two really, really good outsides and then just feeding them the ball.
And they also added, I mean, you talk about their middles, they added Lizzie Carr, who also came from Purdue to join the Wildcats too. And she's been on quite the tear in the postseason, both in the SEC tournament and in the NCAA tournament too. There was a comment, I forget who had it in the chat too, but something about it was you thought the SEC tournament was great preparations for these teams too. So it's it gives out high intensity matches late in the season so that you're prepared for that one and done atmosphere of the tournament.
Well, and we've talked about this. I forget if we talked about it on the show, but we've definitely it's apocryphal in Nebraska volleyball history. Terry Pettit got tired of watching his teams roll through the Big Eight and then get challenged by like Penn State or Long Beach or Stanford in the regional finals or the Final Four in the early 90s. So he started scheduling not home and home, but like 2 weekend matches with Texas late in the season. So they would go down to Austin and they would play like a Friday and a Saturday, or Texas would come up to Lincoln and play on a Friday or a Saturday and a Sunday. And they would get 2 matches out of it and like sort of have a Final Four type match. And, you know, you can't do that probably now with the way the conferences are set up. But, you know, it showed you how Nebraska tried to control what they could to give themselves a good look before the postseason.
Yep. Let's move on to rotation 5. This is going to be a very quick rotation because we are not going to record for another half hour or so. But Texas did win the third set, so they are going 4. They won that third set 25-20. Some quick out-of-date stats if you're not listening to this live. Mimi Collier has 16 kills. She's hitting 300. Kari Spears has 9 kills. Stafford has 8 kills on 30 swings. So she's struggling a little bit, but Texas is out blocking them. Stafford has 4 blocks. That's good to see. Ella Swindle has 3. Texas again keeps trying to find replacements.
My question for you: if you're Kentucky, say you're Craig Skinner, which of these teams do you not want to face on Thursday? Are you Wisconsin. You think Kentucky would rather face Texas than Wisconsin?
Yes. Yeah, okay. I think that. I think that. I mean, for the same reason you're the biggest Charlie Furbringer fan and outside of the state of the great cheese state, that they're just playing at a high level too. They're in a rhythm too, and I think Texas has a little bit of vulnerability. I mean, this will be their very young team. Tori Stafford is a veteran of the Final Four. She knows what it's like too, but there's a lot of youth on that team. And just the changes that Jared Elliott has made with going away from Ella Swindle. I mean, they're running a 6-2. Whitney Lonstein's getting some time. She's got 4 kills.
Are they doing that again today?
Yeah, they're doing that again today. So
it's going to be so wild when Texas portals over Ella Swindle again in like 2 weeks.
So yeah, she won a national title her freshman year too, and that, I mean, they had a lot of great weapons on that team, but they just keep trying to find a setter other than her to run their offense. It's weird too. So I think that given the way that Wisconsin is playing, and they won the first 2 sets impressively. So I think that Kentucky would rather play against Wisconsin.
Not a lot of mystique to Texas. Not a lot of trickery, right? Like, you know where the ball is going most of the time, and there have been several Nebraska teams that have been able to take out Texas, kind of knowing what that formula is.
They're really mirror images of each other.
Yeah. Let's go to our Omaha Supernova shining star of the week. I thought this was pretty obvious for mine. I am giving this to Kendall Stowers. Sophomore outside, Texas A&M, outstanding today. 25 kills and hit 327. Also had 16 digs. I didn't even realize this until I looked at the box at the end of the game, and a pair of blocks. Just killing balls, falling down, tooling the block. Gave Lednicki a little bit of time to heat up, and she was hitting some crazy angles too. She was hitting 4-to-4 shots. She could kill balls in the middle of the floor. She could tool. Just an outstanding match from her, and the story is incredible. Like, Baylor essentially threw her off the team after she had 4 concussions as a freshman. They're like, you need to leave. We don't feel comfortable with you playing. If you want to play, you got to go somewhere else. And so she just took the year off from volleyball, and she left school, and she worked out with her dad, who is a strength coach, and got a couple doctor clearances, and talked to the folks at A&M, and really, really liked it there, liked the coaching staff, and said, hey, I want to give this another shot. And here she is, leading a team to the Final Four. What a great story for her.
Yeah, that's why you watch her. I got some questions that she wears that Q collar, which I don't. It's supposed to help with concussions. I read a huge article, whether it actually does or not, I don't know, but at least it gives her some sort of protection to help with those concussions as well too. But yeah, great match by her. I'm going to give my Supernova Shining Star of the Week to Ifena Kasapkala. She didn't make the all-region team, but she'll be a Supernova Shining Star. I mean, the all-region team only has 7 players, like all recognition teams should be, but there was 3 outside hitters. So Chloe Chacoin, I think, took her spot too. So it's not just a two-team all tournament team, but she was really made a big difference. Like we talked about a lot. She had that 10-0 serving run in the first set too. She finished with top line, because she's number 1, 6 kills, 10 attacks, 0 errors, so 600, 2 aces, 6 digs, 8 blocks, including 3 solo blocks, and a lot of those were on just the quick set to the middle blocker that she was ready for that too. So I think she will get my Supernova Shining Star of the Week.
I was waiting for Thane to jump in the comments here in the I-80 Club Discord, and I thought this was really insightful. Keep in mind, anyone who's listening to this who's affiliated with Nebraska Volleyball, this is Thane saying this, not Jeff Sheldon. He says, Murray needs to watch some Jess Merzick film to move into a scorer. She's a great all-around player, but not a great outside hitter. She can be. This team needs 2 scoring outsides and a scoring right side to take the step. I think, we talked to John Cook, not to name drop a legend, but we talked with John Cook in one of the off-season shows about what is the next step that Murray needs to take to get to be like an unstoppable outside hitter, like a Merzick or a Sarah Franklin. And it just kind of like another year of physical development, right? That she needs to be able to jump higher. She needs to be able to hit harder. I've had one, you talk to some other coaches and they're like, if I were Harper Murray's coach, I would want to see how badly she is driven to improve. And, Danny Busboom Kelly gets to see that more than anything. But Harper Murray carries a lot on her shoulders, not only for a leadership perspective for Nebraska volleyball, but kind of being the face of college volleyball right now. Yeah. And she is in demand. There are a lot of asks on her time. And, that can water down the motivational pie right there. She's sliced probably in a lot of different directions right now. And, is Harper Murray going to come back as an even more elite player in 2026? I think that's something a lot of Nebraska fans are going to have their eye on.
Yeah. And my least favorite thing about the internet right now is people bringing up her comments her freshman year where she dealt with that. And I will say the most impressive thing about Nebraska post-match was Harper Murray in that post-game press conference too. She was composed, spoke very intelligently, was there to comfort and step in for Rebecca Alec when she was overcome by emotion. The growth that I've seen from her just personally over the last 3 years is very impressive. And just kind of how much she cares and loves her teammates is also something that you can't teach. And she's really stepped up as a leadership role as well too. So, it's great to see from her. Yeah, but I think she's taken a lot of steps off the court too, but there's a few more she can take on that court. And hey, watch that also that Ann Arbor, Michigan girl who played for Skyline in Detroit, another Michigan girl that she can learn from as well too. We've deviated a little bit too, but before I want to take care of business, we mentioned our Supernova Shining Star of the Week too. If you're not done with volleyball yet, there's still a lot of great volleyball coming next month, starting with the Omaha Supernovas too. We name dropped her earlier. Brooke Nunaviller is back too. Sydney Hilly has joined the Supernovas as she took a year away playing at the Indy Ignite, but she's back. And also Morgan Hentz has joined the team too. So Omaha is going to have the reigning Major League Volleyball outside hitter, their setter of the year, and the libero of the year all on their roster in 2026 too. And if you want anything else, they're back with a couple of hometown superstars too. Former All-American Merritt Beeson and Creighton legend Nora Tabrak is also back too. So book your Supernovas experience today. Get some single match tickets, get some half season plans, some season tickets. We understand that the people may be kind of down volleyball too, but the Supernovas will give you a couple weeks off. But come January, get your tickets to enjoy some more high-level volleyball at supernovas.com.
Yeah, and I think we're going to be talking with some folks from the Supernovas in early January and just give you a little preview of their season. Lincoln, our next rotation is we're supposed to set up the Final Four. I want to let you talk about Pitt versus Texas A&M for a second, because I have also misplaced something that we need to read for our friends at GIV Athletics, and I want to track that down. I don't know how exactly that happened, but probably in trying to throw together the show, I misplaced that. But we're moving to rotation 6 and a chat for at least the matchup we do know about the Final Four, which is going to be Pitt against A&M.
Yep, this is kind of the new kid on the block, like we mentioned earlier, versus the fifth five-time returner. Texas A&M will be making their first ever. They're only their third ever regional final that they played against Nebraska was their third. First time they won. They had not been in the regional final since 2001. So it's been a long time for them to get to this point too. So brand new experience for all of them, but they're a very senior laden team. I don't feel like much can phase them if they come into the Vandy Center and earn a win. The bright lights of the T-Mobile Center in Kansas City won't be anything out of their comfort zone too. But Pitt is back. They've kind of retooled. I mean, Olivia Babcock knows what this is all about too. Bree Kelly is another very astute middle blocker too. But Brooke Mosher, this is her first year after she spent the early part of her career at Illinois too.
That's one of the interesting things I want to see from Pitt on Thursday, because I haven't been able to watch a ton of them lately since Nebraska played them, just to see how much some of those Pitt players have grown. Like Mosher has been a really solid setter for them. Great server. And then you have a player like Blair Bayless, who's really come on. And I think she really struggled in that match against Nebraska, but they've been able to get some other players around Babcock to step up. Yeah,
that's what we talked about with Michaela Chester last week after the first weekend of the tournament too. Is Brooke Mosher to me has been the development, the story of Pitt this year too. I was I don't know if I was underwhelmed by them, but like, they're a good team. They'll make some noise in the ACC, but I don't know if they're on that level in the beginning part of the year when we saw them first match of the year. But Brooke Mosher has really become a lot more comfortable with her hitters. Like you said, a dangerous server and also a very aggressive setter as well too. I mean, her freshman year at Illinois, she was an outside hitter too, so she's not afraid to swing away when given the opportunity to do so. So I think Pitt brings a lot to this matchup too. But they got some tests in the ACC against Stanford, against Louisville, but we saw what A&M did to Louisville, beating them in 5 sets in the regional semifinal. So again, if A&M can continue to be hungry and continue to play aggressively like they did against Nebraska, that this should be another exciting matchup.
Yeah, absolutely. Although, A&M, after what they did today, no fear. They're not going to have any fear coming into the T-Mobile Center, and they're going to have all the confidence that you can have to go into their first national semifinal.
That's what Jamie Morrison, we got that very viral clip, I think, from our Saturday press conference. He says, we're not afraid of, we don't fear Nebraska too. We're a very good team. We belong here too. And the media liked to ran with that too. And he backed it up. So I enjoy him. I will never fault someone for being confident in who they are to make statements like that, because it makes our job as a journalist a lot easier.
For sure. By the way, I just got a message from a coach, opposing volleyball coach from Nebraska, who shall remain nameless, who just said, "I'm in shock at the results today." We're going to check back in on that Texas-Wisconsin score here in just a second. But first, I want to say this segment is brought to you by our friends at GIV Athletics. For you players or parents of players, if you're looking for the perfect layer under your spandex, GIV Athletics makes high-performance underwear engineered specifically for volleyball players. And we are getting into the thick of the club volleyball schedule, I know, right now. This year, InStyle magazine named GIV one of the best workout underwear brands in its category. They're endorsed and worn by U.S. Olympic gold and silver medalist Micah Hancock, so you know they're built for athletes at the highest level, and they're made without PFAS or harmful forever chemicals. Jiv's fabrics are breathable, moisture-wicking, and designed to give women true comfort and confidence under their spandex. If you're looking for a last-minute Christmas gift for a volleyball player in your life, you can try them today and feel the difference. We're going to save you 15% using code VSP15. That's Volleyball State Pod 15 for 15% off at jivathletics.com. That's JIV athletics.com. Lincoln, what is the score of Wisconsin, Texas right now?
Wisconsin is currently up 10-8 in the fourth set.
Okay, so we're gonna chat about Kentucky versus Wisconsin or Texas when we come back right after this.
Hi, I'm Micah Hancock, two-time Olympian from Edmond, Oklahoma. Confidence means everything. For me, it comes from within. As an elite athlete, you look for external validation way too much. I've worked really hard to attain that and not seek external validation. Jiv makes me feel confident because I don't have to worry about the functionality of my undergarment. At the Paris Olympics, I was so happy that Jiv was the layer beneath it all, whether I was gallivanting the city or playing in the Olympic Games. Instead of adjusting what I'm wearing, the functionality of it helps me lock in and be in the moment. That's why I choose Jiv, not just for game day, but for every day.
We're back. My favorite part of that ad is going gallivanting.
Gallivanting seems like it's something that you really are only going to do in a select number of cities, and Paris would be one of them.
For sure. All right, so we don't know the official matchup yet, but we do know Kentucky will be playing. We've talked a little bit about them already during our Kentucky regional. Maybe we can do a quick preview of both of them, how we feel they match up.
Kentucky's seen Texas twice, right? This year.
Yes.
Lost to them. No, wait, they beat Texas in Austin and then beat them again in the SEC tournament. Do I have that right?
Yes. The reverse sweep. They swept them in Austin, and then they pulled off a reverse sweep in the SEC final in Savannah, Georgia. That one, I think to me, right so far to this point, that and the today's matchup between Texas A&M and Nebraska are probably the two matches of the year. That SEC final was very exciting, high level volleyball, and two powerhouses just throwing haymakers at each other.
Yeah, Texas really has found its blocking shoes in the last couple weeks. I don't know how many they have today, but they struggled with the block most of the season, and then they found it in the SEC tournament, and they put up a ton of blocks in the first couple matches of the NCAA tournament. Maybe the 6-2 has something to do with that, but that would be a huge test if it was Texas for DeLay and Hudson. And at the same time, Wisconsin now is an entirely different team with Charlie Furbringer running things. She's been able to get Carter Booth involved. Mimi Collier is a nightmare anytime you have to face her. And I've been really impressed by Una Vajacic. I don't know how she's doing today, but she was really, really impressive in the Sweet 16.
Yeah, I would say she's probably their most efficient attacker today. She has 13 kills, hitting 429 for the Badgers so far through 3.5 sets against the Longhorns too. So I think, Collier's has 19, hit 292, but so Una's doing I think carrying the load today too. So and Wisconsin's now up 13-8.
Yep.
So I don't know. I don't know if you get how much of the hypotheticals you get to, but what is your overall assessment of a Final Four that includes Pitt, A&M, Kentucky, and Wisconsin's up right now?
Wisconsin or Texas? Well, I think it's going to be the teams that were playing the best at the end of the year have fought their way through there. And I think it's going to be really competitive. There's not a team that I look at there and be like, oh, well, that team is definitely going to win the national title. This also marks the second year in a row you had a juggernaut team cannonballing through the regular season and into the postseason who did not win the national title. Pitt loses in the national semifinals last year. Nebraska loses in the regional final this year. And maybe Chad puts it best here on the screen. Heartbreaking loss, but all credit to Texas A&M. They have a great coach as well. Sports doesn't always go the way you expect it to because they're all human beings.
That's one point we didn't hit on. We don't know how much longer we're going to keep extending this too, but Jamie Morrison, the rebuilding job that he's done in just 3 years. We talked about this with Logan Lednicki that her freshman year, they had a losing record. And then Jamie Morrison comes in and he has a lot of experience with the Team USA junior national team. And really you listen to him talk and he speaks with confidence. He speaks like we belong. it's not an act too, and that has carried over to his players too. So Jamie Morrison has been one of the better coaches, I think, anywhere in college volleyball, and he's another proud member of the Bald Set Spike team too, as well too. So hey, shout out to him.
We're gonna have to send him a shirt after this one. Well, I think that's a pretty good note to end on. Lincoln, do you have anything else about current or recent events?
No, we will. Be sure to check out Husker Max. I wrote a quick game story right after our podcast Sunday night. I'm going to rewrite and do some a little more kind of analysis and kind of get some player interviews, quotes in there as well too. And also probably have a second day story tomorrow. I still may go down to Kansas City and talk to some people there and see what's going on and just do some other things. So check out all of our work on huskermax.com and continue to support the community that we live in.
Volleyball State does not end with the end of the college volleyball season. We're going to be back next Sunday. It's probably going to be our last show of the year.
Weekly show,
once we get into January, we move into monthly shows, although we will do bonus content that's where we get to dive deep on specific issues that are affecting the sport, the topics of the day. You get all of those bonus content episodes by becoming a paying subscriber of Volleyball State. Just $5 a month at patreon.com/I80 Club. Makes a great Christmas gift as well. But we will be back next Sunday night at the regular time, live in the free feeds on Tuesday, to kind of take an overall look back at the Nebraska season, preview who we think is coming back in 2026 and what kind of team Nebraska could be next season as well. Plus, we will wait until the national championship matches down there and have a full breakdown of the Final Four from Kansas City. So thanks to our friends at Alumni Hall, the Omaha Supernovas, and Jiv Athletics for sponsoring the show today and all season long.
And final check-in, it's 16-10 Wisconsin. Hopefully, by the time you're listening to us, you would know what it is. So just imagine the great things we could have talked about that match too. But we appreciate you. It may be a lot of heartache, a lot of sadness, and for a lot of our listeners too. But hey, I appreciate a good volleyball, and I appreciate everyone for listening and living in the Volleyball State.